Hey everyone, it's your average chess player here. Today we are going to look at this endgame position. It is white's turn to play and we have to find the winning move and the continuation for white. So go ahead, pause the video here and try to find the best move for white. Feel free to skip ahead to the solution part of the video if you want to know how this position is solved or if you want to verify your calculation. I'll leave the timestamps in the description. So pause the video and try to find the move. I'll move along and tell you how I solved this position, nuances that I noticed, mistakes that I did in my calculation, and how I finally stumbled upon the right solution. So let's get right into that. What is the biggest problem for white in this position? It is this pawn of black which is going to queen. So that is the biggest problem that white has. The board is facing this way in case you're wondering. So this pawn is going to queen soon. And the only winning idea for white here is to queen this pawn somehow. If white cannot queen this pawn, then this position is a kind of more or less a draw. Unless white blunders and loses the game, which I do often. So if this is the only winning way and black is going to queen, we have to do something about it, right? What are the options here? What are the candidate moves? We definitely cannot move the pawn, so that's out of the question. We definitely cannot blunder with king c3 because there's a skewer here, so we cannot do any of that. Let's try king d3 first. The idea with king d3, which is the first one I tried, I kind of knew what is the move, but I still wanted to try king d3 to know if this works as well or if there's anything I'm missing. So the idea with king d3 is we let black queen first, exchange the bishop for the queen, and then kind of go after this pawn and then capture this one and then start queening. So king c4, king b2, king b5, king c3, we move here, but black unfortunately can catch up to this pawn in this variation, and that's why any of the king moves wouldn't work here. None of the king moves are gonna work. King d3 is probably the this, you could say, the safest king move. Like if you're gonna go anywhere else, I think it would still be a draw, but this is at least like kind of like a safe draw, you could say. So that doesn't work. Now, if you take the bishop, which leaves us with the bishop, and if you take the bishop, there's only one move that actually deals with this pawn actually kind of queening. None of the squares in this diagonal prevent this pawn from queening, and none of the squares, these three squares, do anything, and none of these three squares do anything. So the only square where we can put the bishop, which prevents the pawn from queening, is bishop to a1. And now we have to assume that this is the correct first move because we are still trying to solve this position. The obvious question here is what happens after king takes a1. So we have two moves, but I'll tell you the idea behind either of those two moves. Let's put a king c1 as a token move here. This is a kind of a common pattern that I've seen even in a few grandmaster games, where your king is going to cut off the enemy king and a pawn, prevent the king from moving so that you cannot queen the pawn. So if this black pawn did not exist, this is a stalemate. But since this black pawn exists, it kind of forces black to move this pawn in an unfavorable way while you execute your own plan. So this pawn can do, if you place b5, 1, 2, 3, 4. White has kind of 4 moves to execute his own plan, which is just to queen this pawn, bring this pawn back and like as a queen and give a checkmate. So that is what is going to happen, and black's king is now kind of imprisoned, you could say. So black plays b5. So king c1 is the first move in this position that I tried. So b5, c6, push, 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 queens, check, and queens. And this is not what we want. This is actually a draw now because black has successfully queened his pawn. This is where like a single move makes or breaks endgames. Although we found the stunning move bishop a1, we kind of blundered with king c1 and put the game into a draw. The correct move is king c2 here. So once I figured out king c1 doesn't work, I tried out king c2 and it works. And the reason is, after this series of exchanges, I can actually play king takes b3. When my king was on c1, I could not do that. Now black is forced to play king b1. I queen, and we finally give black what he wants, which is to queen his own pawn. But then I can play queen to c2 checkmate. It's kind of brutal, I know, but this is how it is. And this mating pattern is also kind of common in queen versus pawn endgames, where there's just a queen and like a lone rook pawn with the king close by. This kind of a position definitely does occur. So let's go back. Let's go back all the way. So we know bishop a1, king takes a1 works. For the sake of completeness, we need to figure out if variations with b5, b6, and variations with b5 and a combination of king takes a1, all of them work. So we just run through all of them to see there are no complications. So let's start with just simply b6. I'm going to just stick to c6 and not cb6 in all these positions. So b5, push, queens, and we're going to give a checkmate here, plain and simple. Let's go back after bishop a1. If b5 first, push, queens attacks the bishop. Queen c2 is a move, but just to keep it simple, bishop takes b2. If you queen here, I take that as well, or I can even checkmate you brutally this way. So if you take the bishop on b2 to prolong the game, queen c3 check, and queen c1 is checkmate. And let's just show one more variation with it's going to result in the same patterns, but just wanted to show. So if after bishop a1, b6, c6, if you do king takes a1 here, does it change anything? Actually, no. You could do king c2 if you want, and it will be the same position as what we saw earlier with king takes a1. It's going to result in the same thing. It's just that you are one tempo slower, and I can take the pawn here. And if you do king c1 here instead of that, it'll result in the same thing. It's just a checkmate from a different square. But yeah, all of them work. All of them work. What an endgame. You just have to find bishop a1 and king c1. So king c2 after king takes a1. So finding king c2 or knowing that you have to play king c2 is a thing. So yeah, if you skipped ahead to this part of the video, I'm just going to give you the solution. The one-day winning move for white here is to play the move bishop to a1. And we saw multiple other variations of b5, b6. But the critical variation, you could say, is king takes a1. And we have to play king c2 here, not c1. King c1 is a draw. So king c2 is important. It's the only move to win. And after b5, c6, push, b3 check, we take this pawn, give up the b1 square so that it's not a stalemate in the process. King b1 is the only move for black. After we queen, we let black queen. That's all as black has wanted in this game. But after black queens, we deliver checkmate with queen c2. I hope you guys enjoy this video. If you like this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you like content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.